You want to try it?
Well, someone switch seat with me. If one doesn't go down.
Jessica and I went upstairs.
I need like a little
Jesse and
chair.
Bill Sprayback. And I
Okay.
reminded him that I'm never.
Oh, that's better. Yeah. No,
Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Had breakfast with?
We'll have staff welcome breakfast.
Good for you. That was very nice.
Yeah. I call to order the Alex Renee Board of Directors Governance meeting. Can we review the agenda? And if there's some comments, have a move to approve.
It looks good to me. I move to approve it.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Huff, do we have any members of the public?
No members of the public.
Can we review the minutes from the October 28th meeting, please?
Move to approve the minutes.
I second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We had unfinished business. We had status updates. On October 28th, this is tab 2. Mr. Hall, you want to go through these? I can do this.
Sure, we can kind of just walk through each page. So we have the tab 2, the table up. The first item is still open. It was a discussion around succession planning and board recruitment. I think one of the things that we had thought about is having a board retreat around board recruitment. So this is, we'll talk tonight about this. We'll walk through the 2026 board retreat idea. We're proposing to move this to 2027, to a 2027 date, given the proposed theme for this year's board retreat, which we'll walk through later this meeting. I don't know if we want to wait on the second item out of this, was we were going to develop a board recruitment policy as a result of that board retreat. We could either start to advance that now or wait for the retreat, depending on what the board feels. I think the next board member up for reappointment is Mr. Jinks, and it's in 17 months.
I think it's worth discussing at the next board meeting to talk about how we might develop something.
I think we talked through this in advance, but item 2 was complete. Ms. Hammer and Mr. Beal, I don't know if you want to talk through that. Item 3, we had initially planned to discuss approaches for the board to be an effective conduit to the community at tonight's meeting, but given during our prep meeting went almost an hour and a half without doing Midwater's deep dive on governance. So we decided to push that to the October agenda. But we are going to bring back the matrix that was presented at the January staff meeting on communications and outreach, and walk through that at the next governance meeting to talk about the board's role in define those roles a little more. Boardroom layout, we're just waiting on our furniture. Item 4 is complete. T-building, we're going to talk about that tonight. And then thanks again to Mr. Beal and Mr. Jinks for attending UMP this year. Item 6, we completed strengths for Dr. Long. And what we're proposing tonight, we'll talk about how we continue to update our strengths as part of the annual board retreat. Item 7, we've went through this year's General Assembly initiatives. We've tracked those on the monthly board report, and we'll have a last update on the board meeting on Tuesday next week, summarizing the end of this General Assembly cycle, and we'll do the same next year. We've been trying to spend more time on our monthly report and dashboard at the board meetings, so that's ongoing. Paperless meetings, we also punted to October. That's on the October government agenda. Climate change, you'll have a detailed presentation on our climate change study at the board meeting on Tuesday, and sustainability following in May. Item 10, just continue to work together as a board to gain alignment on how we approach payment assistance. The composition matrix, we'll walk through it tonight, but we also said that in October, we would expand that to rank them not just your top 5, but 1 through 14. And we may discuss potentially expanding categories as part of tonight's discussion. Item 12 was making sure that we're thorough in our board memos. If there's any feedback from the board on the memos that have been coming in over the last several months, please let us know. If they're not detailed enough. And we've not been great on celebrating wins, and I think we've been introducing staff at a couple action items still to go.
I'd talk briefly about CEO oversight. That at the training, we had talked about the review we had done, I guess, the first of this year, and thought that had been a good process. I don't know if you want to add. Mr. Hill, did you have any comments on that?
No, I thought it was good, and the fact that you all did it and not me was a big step forward. And I mean that.
Yeah.
As far as, sharing the work.
It's a good process, I thought.
Mr. Carl, were you happy with the process?
Yes?
Okay. Then everything's good. Next up is the board governance.
Tab 3.
No,
I'm sorry. The composition matrix, I apologize. Shammer.
yeah, so we have an updated composition matrix. So all 5 of us are represented now. And we had talked previously about adding some additional areas of expertise. So there might be some additional topics represented the next time we all, refresh our answer to these questions. So I had been kind of brainstorming a list of a few potential things to add. How do we want to go about discussing that?
So go ahead.
Just say what, say it? Okay.
Yes, please.
I thought it'd be good to have listed on here experience with, and you can decide how you want to express this, but community engagement or like communications, messaging, those types of skills. Because I don't think any of those were really reflected in the list that's in here. Community involvement is the closest, but that's just the way it's described. It seemed a little different. Technology. Oh, technology is on here. Never mind. Technology is on here. Sustainability. Regulatory compliance comes the closest, but that's more focused on like the facilities compliance with the law as opposed to like other things that can be done to promote sustainability.
We separated those out when we put the strategic plan together.
Right.
So sustainability should be its own thing.
Right. And maybe affordability or like, rate generally.
Rate setting,
Yeah.
rate review.
Mhm. Those were the ones I came up with.
And then particularly for ability and sustainability. It really can.
Mhm.
Take action on this direct the staff to include that when we revise this.
I think that's all that's needed. It's just, it doesn't need to be addressed now, but the next time we want to come back to this, it would be good to have those included.
So I think what we do is we can update this and have it ready then for the prep for the governance meeting in October. We'll circulate it then and we'll rank them 1 through 17. We that last time and then.
Right,
we'll
right.
also have it applied to show how the scoring breaks down across each of the areas of expertise
Cool.
for October.
Anything else?
I think that was it.
Okay.
Great.
And now it's board governance training.
Yeah.
Go on.
Is it okay if I stay seated?
Yes.
Okay.
We'll allow it.
All right, so this is the annual training, and I know that we recently onboarded Lisa and Becky. So this will be a lot of repeats. We will not belabor it, and we'll skip through some of it that's fresh in our minds. So next slide. Okay, we'll talk about our creation, the purpose, the frameworks that govern, the legal frameworks, and our governance documents. We'll get into more detail on ethics. We'll talk about open meetings and records, policies and requirements, and then a review of other policies. And before we get started on the content, so you're all given a board manual, and what you'll see that I've done in this presentation is for a lot of these things, I have created a summary of what each of these policies do or bylaws, so it makes it an easier reference than having to go through sometimes very lengthy documents that are needed. Our creation, we were established in 52 pursuant to Code Council Ordinance 760 and the Virginia Water and Waste Authorities Act. So our charter consists of the Articles of Incorporation that we established first and that city ordinance that was passed December 20th, 1952. On January 13th, the State Corporation Commission granted our creation, the order granting it. And then we have had the charter revised a few times. In 84 and 2008, it was revised to extend our corporate existence. And then the last revision was in June of 2018. That extended our corporate existence to 2068, but also addressed our purpose in added in CSOs and water reclamation. We're a body politic and corporate, a political subdivision of the Commonwealth of Virginia. We perform a public function and operate in the public interest. We're subject to public laws, and we'll go over the 4 main ones in the presentation. We have a legal identity that's separate from the city. We can own property, sue and be sued, enter into contract, issue bonds, and like that. And we function similarly to a corporation, but with a public mission. This is the 2018 ordinance that I just referenced, and that sets forth our purpose. So we are created to acquire, purchase, lease, construct, reconstruct, improve, extend, operate, maintain any sewer system or combined sewers in a stormwater control system. And then you can see in there that it talks about reclamation as well. So we won't likely need to revise that charter again for a while, since we've got 2060 as our date. The applicable laws, there are more applicable laws to the board, such as the Virginia Public Procurement Act, but the 4 I wanted to focus on here for this training are the Authorities Act, the Conflict of Interest Act, Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and the Public Records Act. Stop me if you have any questions. We've gone over this before. I know you're familiar with the Dillon's Rule, and that Virginia is the Dillon Rule state, and that limits our powers as an authority to those that are expressed directly by the General Assembly, or that can be fairly implied or necessary incident to the powers that were expressly granted. or those that are essential to our declared purposes. And courts have typically construed that very strictly, Dillon's rule, to limit an authority or local government's powers. So this is very similar to, I'm not going to go through this because if you, in what I handed out the last board meeting is the, so that goes through the entire Authorities Act and provides an index. Here I put forth the powers, description of what the powers are. Here again, we get into our purpose in the Authorities Act, what we can do, bylaws, rules, property, eminent domain, contracts and agreements, intellectual property, rates and fees. And then there's a section that's dedicated to the board, your officers, the term, quorum, and then hiring and oversight of the CEO. The bylaws, this is exactly how the bylaws are set forth, and we will be proposing some revisions to modernize our bylaws very soon, but we'll probably keep this structure. So it's got 8 articles. The first sets forth the principal office location and where our records are maintained. The second article goes into meeting procedures for how we conduct regular, special meetings, public access, how we deal with the quorum, and how the agenda is handled. It does not set forth rules of decorum or parliamentary procedures, as I've mentioned in the past. The third article goes over the officer roles and CEO duties. Fourth article is the committees. Fifth goes into indemnification. This is a section I'm going to be proposing a lot of revisions to, not really to change it, just to make it more readable. 6 is regarding the official seal. 7 sets our fiscal year. And then 8 talks about how. So as I just mentioned, the bylaws do not set forth what type of parliamentary procedure you're required to follow. There is a city ordinance that requires Robert's rules for some committees and boards, but it does not apply to Alex Renew, to a few others. So it really is in the discretion of the board as to what procedures you want to follow. We have very loosely followed Robert's rules, but what I would recommend is that we don't need a policy and we don't need to revise the bylaws to say we're going to follow X, but we should all know what we're following. So what I am putting together is sort of a handbook of the procedures that will do some of this. It will simplify things, but it will also answer questions like, can the chair serve as ex officio of committees? How do you recuse yourself? How does an abstention work? So those common things that you might encounter in a board meeting. And so that will do this as well. The outline that I'm working on talks about starting and ending meetings, voting on action items, how the chair has to moderate discussions and make sure that respectful dialogue is maintained, how to deal with closed meetings, and then how we handle minutes and record keeping. So that would be something that would come back likely to the governance committee after. Mr. Hill, I'd probably like you to take a look at it first. We'll talk about it. Take it to the governance committee.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Amanda, could I propose that we have, let me just throw out an idea, because I do worry about the over formality we have sometimes, because I think it detracts from team building and real honest discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Would it be possible to, and let me throw it out to everybody, have a set of rules that basically say, when there are no members of the public in attendance, and we follow certain rules, we use first names, we don't need the permission of the chair to speak, although we respect the other speakers in the room, don't interrupt. But when there's public in the meeting, then we probably need to have formal names formal titles and rely on the chair or ask the chair to speak. Does that sound like an approach?
We talked about that in the pre-meeting.
Yeah.
Not all those details, but
I like that. That's why I was telling her, I said, it's just weird to me to see Miss Fear. Not kid. I like that.
Just, Mr. Hill, the meetings are recorded.
I know
and
that.
Posted online. So anyone can go watch them.
I thought the same thing, but it's more of when somebody's here participating, just so they can follow more easily.
Yeah.
And I think it's fine to deviate depending on public's here. And if we're putting these in procedures and not a policy or the bylaws, then we can adjust depending on.
And my reason for that is, I think the most important ingredient in a successful board is congeniality and collegiality. And I worry that sometimes the excessive formality detracts from that. It also makes it harder because you have to go through all these titles and things. Just a thought, yeah.
let's support that.
So we can't use the honorable gentleman from Delray anymore.
The honorable.
This is just another example of something that we would put in the procedures. We use motions a lot, resolutions a lot, but motions are for those typical routine parliamentary actions. If we're getting legal, financial, and policy setting approvals from you, there's probably going to be a resolution. And we of course keep minutes, but we also keep a resolution log. So we can go back and just go through all the resolutions of Alex Renew. Something. Okay. Board duties, duty of care so these are the basic three board duties. Care, duty of loyalty, and duty of obedience. Care is you must act with the same care and diligence that a reasonable prudent person would use in similar circumstances. And that includes making sure that you're prepared, informed, that you attend meetings, that you're engaged in decision-making, that you review the board packets, you ask relevant questions. You can rely on staff, qualified staff, but not be a rubber stamp. I think the board does a very good job of preparing and asking questions already. Duty of loyalty, you must prioritize the interests of Alex Renew above personal, professional, and other outside interests. This involves avoiding conflicts of interest and maintaining confidentiality by disclosing potential conflicts, recusing yourself, not using board service for personal gain. Obedience means you have to operate in accordance with the laws that apply to us, regulations, the bylaws you set, the board policies, and make sure that Alex Renew does the same and abides by our mission and strategic plan.
Ultra vires.
Beyond our authority. So we avoid actions that we do not have power to take on. The board roles and responsibilities are set forth in a board policy. And these are the 6 main categories of your responsibilities. Develop and oversee vision and direction. That's through our strategic planning process. You hire and oversee CEO. You ensure compliance and effective working relationships. You make sure that we're cooperating with City Council and that we maintain broad stakeholder relations and engagement. Financial health is one of the main obligations, ensuring financial health, approving the budget, and hiring and overseeing the external auditors, and then of course accepting the audit. So these we'll get into more as we discuss the subcommittees, but overall, this is in the policy as well, why we have committees. So it helps with the board's workload. Clearly defined, they have to have a clearly defined charter and scope, They're advisory only, so no official action. Committees like the governance committee can make recommendations to the board, but can't take official action on behalf of the board. A standing committee should have an ongoing role or function. It's appointed by the board chair, 2 members for each committee. A quorum is required for recommendations. We hold meetings at least annually. And we report progress at the next board meeting. Review goals and expectations. For the first meeting, that's right, for the first meeting of committee, and we've had these 2 committees for the longest time, but if we were to form a new one, then there is a process set forth as to how you get started with that. Board chair may sit ex officio, and as ex officio, you can actually vote and participate. And the board chair and CEO are paid on correspondence amongst the board. And part of that is also for the record keeping requirements of FOIA. Make sure that we are aware of all the board communication, all the Alex for new records that are out there in case we get an open records request. Governance committee, yes.
Question, for purposes of a quorum, does the board chair just sit in count as
Yeah.
a full, the board member was a full chair,
Yes. yeah.
full
And I
member
just
of a
researched this
committee?
again,
Yeah.
and yes, and that you can count towards the quorum. The policy, though, if nobody from the committee shows up, I don't know if you really want to take action. Well, you wouldn't have a quorum, you'd have to have 1 member of the committee, right?
No,
Yeah.
so
Can
But
he
that could be
also
a
vote?
situation. I'm sorry,
Can he also vote?
can you what?
The chair.
Yes,
Can
Can
you
you
vote?
vote? Yes. Yes, I'm sorry.
If he wishes,
If he wishes.
if he wishes.
I think this committee knows their purpose and structure, but it is to provide oversight. And the policy updates, most policy updates come through this committee. I know financial policies go through finance and audit. If there are new policies that you want to propose, the governance committee is the to do it. You can assess board members. If it is part of your role. Board structure changes is for the governance committee, orientation management, board performance assessments, and any disciplinary action against a board member. And that's in coordination with the chair. Finance and audit ensures fiduciary responsibility, monitors our financial health, recommends and amends financial policies as needed, oversees the budget process, recommends the annual budget to the full board, monitors implementation, ensures that we have an annual audit, reviews the audit report, recommends to the board that it be accepted, and monitors internal control measures. Again, these follow the policies that the board have approved, but just in a more abbreviated fashion. So now I'd like to get into board ethics. We have the Conflict of Interest Act, which applies to the authority, and also we have the board policy on ethics. There's a lot of overlap between the two, so I'll go through that in just a second, but then we have the City of Alexandria, so you complete that form each year, the annual statement of economic interest and financial disclosure. And the city does have resources and instructions on how to complete that form. If I'm sure you want to have. So looking at the Conflict of Interest Act, it forbids certain gifts, favors, and benefits, improper compensation. It discusses conflicts of interest, prohibited from participating in decisions where you or an immediate family member have a personal financial interest. You can't exploit confidential information. You're prohibited from offering or accepting anything of value in exchange for appointments. Abuse of authority prohibited. And this table compares our policy to the Conflicts of Interest Act. So our policy has to be at least as stringent but it does differ in a few ways. For confidential information, it phrases it a little bit differently, prohibits unauthorized exposure to confidential information. And the other one is prohibiting use. Contracts bars board members from having financial interest in contracts with the authority. Unless legally permitted, and the act prohibits such interests unless specifically exempted. I will note one specific exemption is where a board member day job works for a company that might do business with Alex Renew. If that's the only, if the employment contract or the employment situation with your employer is the only connection, then you would recuse yourself and not participate in any discussions if there's a contract or a matter that comes up with that company. Employment of relatives, our ethics policy prohibits recommending employment of relatives, and the act includes nepotism restrictions and contracting limitations.
Under contracts, is there a difference between legally permitted and specifically exempted?
So legally permitted is what we put in our policy referencing that references the act, and specifically exempted talks about that situation where the only connection is by virtue of the employment. So our policy does go beyond the act in a few ways. For example, with political activity, prohibits using authority resources or position for political purposes. Whistleblower protection. So it outlines how we have to protect from good faith disclosures, and we have to make sure that we don't retaliate. That applies to the board as well. Equity and non-discrimination. Board CEO communication protocol. And we have a meeting attendance minimum of 75%. And the act is not. All right, so now moving to open meetings obligations. There isn't an open meetings policy because we simply abide by the law. So I think the board is aware of all the notice requirements that we have for when we meet. We have to provide at least 3 days notice. Open meetings have to be open to the public, and then we can go into closed meetings with limited exceptions. We have to offer public participation. We have to keep minutes. And for closed meetings, we have to follow the rules as to how we conduct those and how we certify them. Open records. Open records Public Records Act does apply to the board, but I don't believe that there are any records that you would have that we are not privy to, or at least the CEO. If there was an open records request that came in that pertains specifically to the board's deliberations, I might need to reach out to you just to make sure. But for the most part, we just remind you that we do have the obligations to retain records. We have retention schedules. We only get about 4 to 6 open records requests a year. And so we aren't overly burdened by them. But we do have a lot of records, and we have to maintain those, and we are supposed to also destroy those in accordance with the SMOOP schedule. We are improving our efforts in that regard. So this is a table, the next 2 slides, of all the board policies with the most recent version date. So this is just a table for your reference. We have a number of things that I've categorized as our governance policies. There's our finance policies. We have procurement policies, HR, the compensation policy, and then a few community benefits I know we're talking about today. So that one will soon be Amy.
1 second on that. So I think Mr. Hill and Mr. Bailey, you've been here for most of these. All of the policies have been updated since we've had new leadership now, with the last 2 that Amanda mentioned with community benefit and the new rate setting policy, which is going to replace the rate resolution, whatever it was called before. But part of what we probably want to do, we put this on the agenda for April, is, when we get to these meetings in April, we take a quick look at policies that might need to be updated, that may be outdated, you know, one of those that just came into my mind as Amanda went through this was the ethics policy. I remember that was one of the first policies we started with when we had new leadership of the organization and tried to make it a bit more lenient on the way that staff and the board interacted. So there's just things that we might want to go back to. Even 2023 seems like a long time ago, but we'd like to start with a governance committee having an annual review of these policies. So that's something we'd like to put on for April, and Amanda would walk through on some of the priorities that we might have, but also as we go through the year, if there's things you all think we might need to update or revisit, let's just get it on the docket for tonight's meeting. Next year. It's exciting. Yeah, no more circa 2014 policies.
And the final slide, I want to cover the communications policy. We covered this in orientation, I believe, but this one, we did, I think we tweaked this last year, did we?
It was recent.
Yeah, it's on here. Last one, communications policy is 23. So as it stands right now, we have communication principles, making sure that we rely on the latest accurate information to avoid any miscommunication or reputational damage. We have the board chair as an authorized spokesperson along with the CEO. Others can be spokespersons, but that would be provided by the chair and the CEO. Media press communications are handled by the CEO or board chair unless there's other arrangements made. Social media, we've talked about a lot. We do want the board to repost and promote our posts, and Ms. Hammer does a wonderful job of that. Stakeholder interactions, it talks about board members should use approved talking points when we're going out to stakeholder events, and board employee communications. If having questions go through Justin, it doesn't mean that he's not going to connect you with somebody else, but just to make sure that we're in some way controlling how these questions come in and out. So that's the current communication policy. And what isn't in here from the handbook, from your manual, are all the agreements. And we do have an old table that I'm updating because I found more agreements and how they interconnect. So I'm working on a better summary of the agreements that we're part of that also has, you know, if there's an expiration date or next steps or renegotiation coming up. So we'll provide that to you in a future report.
Any questions, comments?
If I could, communications policy, authorized spokespersons and press media communications. Right, the way it's written here, and I understand this is shorthand, right? This is just the sum. It should be clear, though, that it's the CEO, general manager, who really is the spokesperson. And the way that reads here is sort of CEO or board chair. Just want to be clear that if CNN puts a microphone in my face and says, what do you think about the tunnel project or something like that? It's great. Or, you know, or some crisis happened involving wastewater in Alexandria. You really want that question to be directed to the full-time paid employee who runs the organization. So I just want to make sure that I understand this is shorthand here.
Yeah.
But the policy.
That's not what the policy says. The
That
policy
is-
says it. Policy says what she summarized.
Yeah.
So the two policies I had on my list that we should probably go back and look at were ethics, because it was done like early on. We didn't have a board formed, you know, the board had changed. We had new members of the board, it was changing, and communications. And Ms. Hammer brought up a question a few weeks ago about, you know, promoting our social media. We want to make sure that that's clear. Those are probably two policies that we want to come back around to and just, you know, dust off a little bit, make sure we all understand them.
But I think policy needs to clearly communicate. The policy needs to clearly reinforce that the CEO and the board chair need to be highly coordinated
Yeah.
when dealing with the meeting. And I'll let you put the right words around that.
I mean, we did that after I was here for 4 months. Ethics we did right after that. So within the first 6 months, we updated those two policies. And I don't know if we had the same working, we certainly didn't have the same board nor same working relationship with the board and staff that we have today when those policies were done. So that's why I thought that we would want to update those two.
No, I agree. We don't need to do it now, but I just wanted to make sure, again, it's not for my use, it's for future boards.
Is there anything that I didn't cover that you want as part of the annual? You don't have to answer this right now, but if there's something that you want covered in this training that I haven't, for example, the agreements will normally cover updates on those.
One thing that occurred to me, it's more of a don't than a can, but making it clear that board members cannot direct the staff to take actions. You can recommend, they can suggest, but can direct either the CEO or any staff member to take any action.
And you mean like an individual board member?
Yes.
It says thou shalt not talk to staff.
There's a difference between talking and saying, I want you to do X.
It does. It kind of does.
It kind of does.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we even read it again recently, like, ooh.
Yeah.
I know who wrote that, actually.
And Mr. Carl, I would think that applies on your part. You let the staff know.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I think they understand that.
Yeah, they do.
Any other comments on this? Ms. Waters, I like your cross-reference here. But, that must have been a lot of work to put together, but it's good to know.
Thank you.
I think, for feedback too, I think that if we are actively going through a lot of our agreements right now. We have done a ton of digging and research over the past 8 months. I think maybe, this time next year, maybe just a walk through the agreements and where we stand and what the Virginia American Water Agreement says for our coordination, what Arlington says or Fairfax, getting a deep dive in the agreements for this type of training too. It doesn't have to necessarily just be, the governance topics. It might be something worthwhile.
Sure. Okay. Our next item is the 2026 annual board retreat proposal. Ms. Hammer, I'll turn that over to you.
Yeah. That was some slide. Not essential that they be up on the screen. It's just 2 slides and we all have them. But the retreat is gonna be, in the winter as we've been doing it, and some great topics and themes have been presented to us for consideration. Since we have a new board member, the idea was to spend the first day on team building, getting to know each other a little bit better. So at long last, we are going to play Alex for New Jeopardy, hosted by Amanda Waters. I'm already looking forward to it, even though this is like 9 or 10 months from now. We'll do a strengths refresh with Sally McGee, who was present at our retreat two retreats ago, I guess that was just last year though. And we'll be at Building Momentum again to do a team building challenge, which again, that's where we were last year. And then on day 2, we are going to get a very exciting River Renew preview of the various facilities involved, throughout the project. I've heard we're going to get a party van that's going to drive us around town to see, all the different components. There'll be a classroom session. There's a typo, right? It's not going to go until 5 p.m., right? Isn't that what we talked about before? It's going to end at 2.
Yep.
With breakfast and lunch. So I think that sounds awesome. I'm very excited.
One of the things that appeals to me about this is that as we, River Renew, and the tunnel and all the facilities go into operations, just to get a better feel for exactly how this is going to work.
Mhm.
And I think this gives us that opportunity.
Does anyone have any questions or thoughts on that plan?
We thought the solids tour was really fun. Staff enjoyed it. Staff liked seeing the board go through the plan. So we thought this is the probably first and last time this organization is ever going to have something like this, to be able to go see it before we hit commissioning and startup. So we felt the timing just worked. So we'd still have staff here and some of the contractor staff here to, be on site, and you can meet them and ask questions and, things like that. We thought it'd be a neat time to sort of visit the facilities, because once they're operational, I mean, you can go in some of them, but really not. Just a pump station for the most part.
Any other comments? Thank you. Let us know what else we need to do when we put this together.
Sally might have homework probably for the strengths-based teams, but probably, and we'll still, I guess the other reason too for this is you'll hear from Caitlin on Tuesday. We're still working through the rate structure, so we expect that to continue throughout this year, to get ready for next May to potentially have an alternative rate structure. So we wanted to make this a little more fun and interactive retreat, since we had a heavy year this year in the classroom type setting.
We also have to study for Jeopardy.
Yeah.
I was on Jeopardy, real Jeopardy. So
Oh.
watch out.
Seriously?
That does not
I
surprise me at
didn't
all.
win, but I was on it.
On TV?
Yeah.
Scott,
People on this one.
Alex Trebek?
This was, with Trebek. Yeah,
The
this
real.
was a long time ago. This was in like 20,
No,
Did you know the final Jeopardy answer?
no.
No.
But I would not have won even if I had known the answer. This is how I am able to fall asleep at night without regrets. No, I had to, the guy who beat me went on to win that year's Tournament of Champions. So it was tough luck at the draw. But I didn't embarrass myself.
What
What year was this?
It was like 10 years ago.
Probably on YouTube.
I mean, I have a copy like burned on DVD somewhere. We can like bust it out.
We'll bring it in for now.
Yeah.
Are you going to solicit information from board members to use on this?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
Presented as a question.
Fun fact.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We're gonna have, well, let's see, you're gonna be participating as contestants, so I don't know.
He's
how
gonna
much
win
you
it
can
all.
give me.
Here are the questions I'd like you to use.
Unless we prohibit professional.
Yeah.
You can give me an area you want me to cover. It's not gonna be just governance, it's going to be other fun things that have to
It
do
should be.
with, yeah.
I'll send you a couple ideas, and I think there are ways to work around that. So just, cool.
That's great.
That's what our permit limit is for TN for the year.
That would be a final Jeopardy.
It's in the board report every month.
What our numeric excellent limits are. Yeah.
Yeah, Unless you have a photographic memory, you're not gonna.
Right stuff
By the
down.
way, I already know who I think is going to win the contest, by the way.
Well, it depends on how the questions are written.
They're gonna be teams though.
Well, that's good. And I-
Teams of attendance. They'll be lifted.
So the next action item, I think, Mr. Bill, to respond to your question is we'll just want to get dates on the calendar that are not Super Bowl weekend.
Right.
So we'll circulate ideas for dates and just get it on the calendar. We'll find out when Sally's available too. You want me to do that?
I was gonna do this.
Good.
The next item is continuing education ideas, and I want to thank Mr. Carl for putting this together. We have a board education budget of $8,000 per year. And just some of the options that are here on the utility management conference, which Mr. Jinks and I attended. And I think we both enjoyed that. The next one is in Charlotte next March. The Virginia Municipal League conference, which is next October. The Natural Resources Leadership Institute. Virginia Municipal League Leadership Training. The Chesapeake Bay and Water Resources Policy Committee. The Certificate of Nonprofit Board Education. Board Academy. Environment Virginia Symposium. Guest speakers and site tours. And we discussed this earlier that the low-hanging fruit are obviously the last two, which I think we've done, and we certainly like to do more. But I think this is probably worth discussing a little more in detail at the board meeting in April or May. Just what interests the different board members and how we might start allocating our budget to these things. Was it the Chesapeake Bay Resource Policy Committee that actually was no fee for us because we're a member?
Correct, yeah, so we're already members for the pink color here, pinkish orange. We're already members, our staff, myself, Amanda or Miles attends that, usually virtual. But there are elected leaders that attend, and we thought that would be a really good meeting for a board member to attend to keep the finger on the pulse in the region, They meet, 5 times a year. It's a 2-hour commitment. You can attend in person. I haven't really seen many people attending in person lately. It's been all pretty much virtual, but it's a really good committee for, I think, the board get involved in, locally for this stuff.
Could we have more than one member attend one of those meetings? So, okay.
When is the May meeting? Since it's
It's
coming
the
up.
Third
third
Friday,
so
January, March, May, July, September, November, so 6 times a year.
it's on my calendar. So whoever
Whatever, third.
wants to attend, we could forward the invitation along, or we could have Heidi Bonifant send around. I just ask her to add you to the meeting invite. I mean, it's the national issues are followed, but then there's a focus on how it affects the Bay region. I think it's a good committee. I guess when we went through this to try and put this together for this evening, we tried to mix in person versus virtual events too, to make it a little more flexible for the board. Like the board used to attend Environment Virginia, which is this week. Like at Environment Virginia, as Mr. Beal noted, there is also a training component at VMI. So that is that's happening tomorrow through Friday. So we're gonna miss it for this year, but something to keep in mind for next year. Again, we try to keep things state focused as much as possible. The Weldon Center for idea on page 1. Weldon Center. Some of these durations were a little too intense in my opinion, but we wanted to give you a range of ideas of what's out there for board training and then Virginia specific, leadership type training.
And I think there's really a range of topics here from the very technical to things that are more organizational or governmental or governance.
Like 12 weeks seems like a lot for the GovX training, but it's something that's out there that's promoted through VML.
Just a question about the utility management conference. Now, very often Alex Renew makes a presentation of that. We have in the past.
Yep.
Jim and Mark, you attended this.
Mhm.
Would you recommend it for?
Sure. Yeah, utility management, I think their definition is very broad. It's not really management of utilities. It's all sorts of issues utilities are dealing with and how they're dealing with it. They're probably, what do you think, Jim? 4 or 5 sessions at each
Yeah.
point in time for the most part.
Yeah,
So there are lots of
a
options
lot of options.
on topics, and
I think there were some sessions that were more oriented toward what we do or more useful than others. But overall, it was a good, 3 days?
Yeah.
Some good programs.
yeah, the downside was the organizations. Some of the speakers weren't very good, or their PowerPoints were awful.
But that's the nature of conferences.
Yeah,
That's like
and so it's like
Yeah.
not really relevant. You go like, okay, it's one of the reasons to kind of sit in the back of some of these and you kind of slip out early and find another one to go to. But overall, it was well worth it.
I'm wondering if maybe the one way to do this is to sort of make it that a standing conference, that every year we send 2 board members. So rotating rests. And then make the Chesapeake Bay Resource Policy Committee open to all board members all the time. Because it's virtual. Granted, it's during the workday for some, but I think that's very germane to what we do.
With CBPC, they typically will do a annual boat tour. And on the annual boat tour, typically city council would participate either in the morning or the afternoon. That'd be something for the board to go out and do too. They go out and they drag a net to show you the fish that could be in the Potomac, and they talk about water quality and wastewater's impact on it. So we participate in that.
What is this? What month?
Wasn't hot, so I would say it's either May or June. Hasn't cropped up yet this year.
I think it makes sense to have a very standing, routinized approach towards educating the board. So you don't have to decide too much. You just know, okay, it's the utility management conference. We always go. We just rotate the
And
members.
I think that's really the best overall program to go to like that. So,
Yeah, the VML annual conference, I've been to more of them than I can count. I wouldn't doesn't have a whole lot of relevance for what we do.
Hold on, I'm confused with VML. Is VML different than Environment Virginia? It's like-
It's on page 1.
Their annual conference, they do a lot of other good things, but their annual conference has got 500 or 600 people and members of town councils from all over the state, and I've never found it very helpful for education.
Does UNC advertise like a board member track, or do they try to?
No.
They in their promotional materials, they've promoted that they try and create a agenda geared towards executive and boards.
Yeah.
So they're the one conference that actually does that. And the nice thing about, I think UMC, it's joint with WEP and AWWA. They get to meet, you know, all utilities, not just water and waste, not just wastewater.
So do we want to bring a resolution in April to make the utility management conference an annual event that we send to board members to?
I would ask the governance committee how they feel about it.
Not just,
We could do that.
okay,
Yeah. My only hesitancy is that like, I'm probably never going to be able to attend it because I have a job and I can't take like 4 days off of
No.
work.
Yeah, I understand. I understand.
So, you know, I feel bad kind of, saying, yes, we're gonna send people, but not me. You know,
Becky, for these conferences, a lot of times I will pick a day or an afternoon where it's got the best content and go,
Yeah.
not go for the entire time
Yeah.
because it can be
Yeah.
very difficult to
yeah.
work and attend conferences. So maybe that would
Yeah.
be,
If it's like in a closer than,
Yeah.
you know, Charlotte, North Carolina or whatever,
That's an easy flight. You could go
for
for,
a day.
you go for an afternoon, go for an afternoon and back.
we should find something that works for you also.
But I can plug it, you know, some of
Okay.
these could work for
Okay.
me fine,
Okay.
but, you know, taking off work to go to a conference for 3 or 4 days is
Yeah.
probably not gonna be something I can manage.
And that's, yeah, that's legit.
But some of the, you know, that's why I appreciate the range of different options presented here, because there are other ones that would be fine. So, but if you guys thought that the utility management conference was really good and that someone should go every year, then I'm happy to co-sign that recommendation.
And by the way, it doesn't have to be two. Say, every year we send somebody.
Someone, yes,
Send
because
somebody.
DC Water, we send a lot of people to. So I have that open
Mhm.
with DC Water to attend the conference. So I think someone is the way to go.
But I also say that if we have an $8,000 line item every year, we should try to use.
Yeah, that's just what we had in there, but we just checked to see what was in there in the draft budget. That's what was in there. We didn't, it's just something we've always carried. I mean, we can change the budget to meet the board's needs.
Definitely when there is the opportunity, for example, if I cannot go with DC Water, I would let you guys know. But we have that opportunity every year. We send 15 people.
Mm. Wow.
Yeah.
I think they all made presentations. About every other presentation is somebody from DC Water.
Yeah, because usually we don't send people if you don't have an abstract or a presentation, they have the priority to go. So that's how we do it. But this year with the budget cuts and all the things, so I just keep my options open.
Mhm.
Two things that are free that we did want to point out is we haven't had a board meeting where we've had an open agenda where we didn't have anything to talk to the board about yet. But we probably at some point will, once we get into some of these jobs, maybe have an open agenda item. So we had idea of having guest speakers come in to talk to the board. They could be experts. It could be somebody like Nancy Teodoro, for example. It could be somebody from the chamber, somebody from, Chesapeake Bay Foundation to talk about their initiatives, just for education purposes. And it could be a short with Q&A or something like that, if we have the capacity on one of our agendas to incorporate that. And then we would love to do the site tours again, because we're about to rebuild 75% of the plant. So going through the headworks, get you into building K in its current condition would be wonderful. And also go through tertiary. So those are some other ideas we had, go through tertiary, and that just gives you the whole idea of the program we're going to be doing over the next 10 years. So we thought that the solid tour was fun, so we wanted to pitch that too for continuing education. And that doesn't cost really anything sometimes.
I'd like to see someone from DEQ come and talk about how we're doing and sort of an overview of how things are statewide.
Mr. Jonathan Rack now works for DEQ
All right.
as the policy advisor. Easy. And Mr. Rollman.
Those are great ideas.
Good.
Great idea.
All right, we'll try and get that. We'll try and see if we can build into the board calendar.
Right now, there's a lot going on always. But maybe this summer. or
Do we need a motion to bring the utility management numbers?
So-
on the agenda.
I think we'll
Move
put
to
it
the
in minutes,
committee.
we'll just take action on it. We'll just add to the minutes table.
Anything further on this? The next item was the governance committee meeting in October, the agenda items. We talked about having paperless meetings, looking again at the board composition matrix, and then feedback on the community outreach presentation. I think that's probably a full agenda right there.
I'm sure we'll come up with
Yes,
something else to talk about in the next 6 months.
Yeah, we'll go back and do the standard items that were on the administrative side.
Mhm.
of that meeting too. I can't remember what they were, but we'll go back to them.
next is the board policy. Board policies, and the first one was on rate setting. And I think you will.
Yeah, so we sent this around, I think it was last week after we met with the governance committee. But I guess first off, we have a new template for our policies. And as we update policies, we'd like to get them all in this template. It starts with the policy statement, the purpose of the policy, and then you get into the meat of the policy, whatever that policy is. If we need it, we have references at the very end. So we said that right now, if you look at the second page in the packet in tab 7, you'll see the resolution on rate adjustment principles. It talks partially about our objectives in rate setting that we sort of went through at the board retreat this year. So what we said as an action item from the board retreat, we were going to propose to scrap this old resolution and turn it into a rate setting policy. And the rate setting policy serves a few purposes. One, it sets forth our rate setting objectives, which the old policy did. But the board put those objectives into a priority order at the board retreat at section 3. And it also talks about our administration requirements. Every time we go to look for the 5 factors in setting rates, I always have to dig through like 3 documents. We're putting them in here just so they're easy to reference. And then the process for establishing a rate structure, we wanted to make sure we define that as we talked about it during the rate setting discussion. And then our annual rate setting process in rate adjustment, setting our fees. Winter quarter average is not captured anywhere right now other than rates, rules, and regulations. So if we change it and you want to find what the details are on it, good luck finding rates, rules, and regulations from last year unless you have it handy. So we wanted to try and get a policy together to do all of that. So walking through the policy, section 3, these are the objectives. And we did refine the definitions of each of these based on board feedback. And then part 4 is administration. This is just saying how we're governed and what are our criteria for setting rates. So it talks about the Virginia Waste and Authorities Act. And then a little bit about the master indenture of trust, and then section of Virginia code for having public hearings. So it's a handy, section 4 is just selfishly putting a handy reference in here for us to be able to go back and look for some of this stuff when we need it. Section 5 walks through day 1 of Harry's presentation on how we establish a rate structure, so it's verbatim from the slides, it's described. So that if the board were to ever pursue another rate structure, we have a policy on how that gets done in the future. And then section 6 is how we set rates annually. I do want to mention that, you know, without amending the policy, we did give the board the ability to set a 5-year rate adjustment, up to a 5-year rate adjustment if they ever wanted to, without amending this policy. So right now we do rate adjustments every 2 years. That's not defined anyway. So this gives you the flexibility at least to do it up to 5. And then the last section is miscellaneous stuff. Quarter average. We pulled a lot of this and simplified it from rates, rule and regulation. We do have a reclaimed water rate. And this defines how we set that reclaimed water rate. It talks about our pretreatment fees, deduct meter, and then other charges. A lot of that was simplified from rates, rule and regulations. And then we, at the end, we have references where necessary from the earlier discussion on the rate structure. So this is a draft for the board's consideration. We felt that it is long for a policy, but it does a lot more than. It seems like objectives to us. This at least defines to staff on how they're going to set rates and develop rate structures to bring them to the board for approval.
We discussed this at the pre-meeting. I don't know if you got anything to add.
Not really. I think it is very clear. It pulls together useful information into one document.
And we proposed this to the board at the April meeting to adopt this.
Can I just
John
ask
has,
a
John has
couple
something.
of questions? Also, I think this is excellent and very clear. I just have a couple of thoughts. I'll just call them thoughts. On page 1F, equitable, fair, and reasonable rates. The title is equitable, fair, and reasonable, but the definition uses the word equity.
Well, equity is just the noun form of equitable.
I know. So it sounds like we're defining the word in terms of its. Could we expand what we mean by that?
That's a good point.
What do we mean by that? Keep in mind that we have affordability up above it.
Yeah, this is looking at the customer classes.
Yeah, so it's something that just,
Everybody's paying the same KGAL.
just to expand what we really mean by equity. That word hangs people up.
Equitability. Aren't we doing equitability now? Just kidding. That's not a word. As we've established.
So we took some of the meat by trying to simplify the definition.
Yeah.
We can add it back in.
Something that gives a little more description of what we mean by equity. And then on the 4th page, section 6A, number 4. I know what we're saying in number 4. The monthly wastewater treatment billing cap is not affecting the wastewater bills rendered during the winter quarter. I know what we're trying to say.
Yeah.
But I think we'd say that just more clearly, that basically if you use less water than your winter quarterly average during those months.
No, I mean, it doesn't, the winter quarter is used for calculating the rest of the year. It doesn't apply to the
It
calculation.
doesn't apply. Yeah, so something along those lines does not apply.
Not applicable.
I'll let you. As a math guy, words are not my thing. But otherwise, I thought this was a great compilation and consolidation of a lot of different pieces, all in one place. Very good.
Mr. Jinks, Dr. Wand.
I would agree, and it's good to have this comprehensive document. My thoughts were in the section we just talked about, since the winter quarter only applies to single-family residential, that we say that in the title. Listed A.
Tony had that in the title.
Okay, and the second thing I had was, 3 on page 1. E, where it says aims to set affordable rates for all households. I just thought because we serve the bill more than just households, we just said it's aim to set affordable rates for its customers.
Yep, good catch.
So,
What line is that?
E,
3E.
3E.
that's it.
And we need to move this or just, it's on the agenda.
You're going to make a recommendation, but it's going to be based on amendments.
To put it on the agenda for the next,
In line
for
with
the
these
board meeting.
amendments. Yeah, and you can have it action to formally. Board. And then,
Forward to the board, the rate setting policy as we've amended it. On the April meeting.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye. Okay, good. The next one is community benefit policy, and this was, I think both staff and Ms. Newman put a lot of work into this. One of the things I really liked about this, that we talk about Alex Renew as an anchor institution. And the EPA says anchor institutions are organizations that are rooted in specific locations that have long-term interests in the economic and social vitality of their surrounding community. Can the rest of the board get copies of this? I thought this was really, really useful and really interesting.
Yep.
This is
Yeah, we went up in
I like the concept of Renew as an anchor institution.
Well, this policy is really about how we view our relationship with the community, what our goals are for that relationship, kind of outside the core mission of just treating wastewater. So I think this document really nicely kind of summarizes, what our goals are for ourselves as a member of the community and what sort of benefits are we hoping to provide by being a member of it.
I would agree. The only suggestion I have would be to define somehow co-benefits. I could guess what the definition might be, but having that in that paragraph A would be useful.
That's a term that gets thrown around a lot. But I guess I forgot it was kind of a wonky term of art.
I do want to mention the original policy dates October 2014, and it has service well. It formed the code benefits of the promenade at Pendleton Street, the partnership we have with the city and MacArthur Myers and African American Heritage Park. Without the policy, we wouldn't have it. This policy got clunky in 2022, absent an EJ policy. Staff had tried to build that into the community benefit policy, and we've separately established an EJ policy, so it really cleaned up the new version.
This is a much clearer explanation of what we're doing. Dr. Wand? You have any comments? No?
No, I think this is wonderful. It almost belongs in the lobby somewhere.
I was pretty happy when we got done with it. I was like, oh, you responded that night. Becky sent comments back like that night, and then I read it again. I'm like, oh, it's
good.
actually not that bad.
Well, I had marked it. They'd given us paper copy in the prep meeting, and I was marking it up, and then I turned on my computer to send the comments, and you had already updated the document and done several of the things that I had. It was like a kind of a weird mind meld, but it was like, okay, well, this is fine. I guess I have two remaining comments. But I think it's really good.
Yeah,
No, it's really, it's concise, it's
clear.
it's concise, it's clear, it's
And it's aspirational too. I mean, it motivates us to do certain things we would be thinking of otherwise. No, it has to be a place in the lobby for
But,
a shorthand version of this.
but it
Something like that.
also, it summarizes things that we have been doing and want to continue to do.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's-
Well, I don't know if it belongs physically in the lobby, but I think it could belong on the website, like, I feel like it'll get more eyeballs
Well, that's true.
than just,
Well,
or both.
the virtual.
Why not
The
both?
virtual lobby.
Yeah.
Virtual.
I move that the governance committee submit this to the board for adoption at the April board meeting. The community benefit policy as amended.
The definition of co-benefit.
All in favor? Aye. You have anything else, Mr. Carl? Anything else? Maria?
Get it all.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
To adjourn.
All in favor?
Hi,
No. Thank you.
good meeting.
Good meeting, very, very productive.
I will not be here next week. I am
Oh,
devastated,
no.
devastated to miss the climate change presentation. But
You better have a good excuse.
enjoy it without me. I do. I'm gonna be hiking in the jungle of Colombia, so
It's pretty nice.
I will not have Zoom where I am. And you will not have me logging on remotely,
And you
unfortunately.
shouldn't zoom into meetings when you're on vacation. That's what vacations are for.
I have done that in the past, and I would if I could. I don't have Wi-Fi in the.
This prep meeting, they help.
They do. They really do.
The staff board. For this meeting, very, very complete.
I'm
The
sorry?
name? Yeah. Read the name public and because they want to be social media basic. Yeah, and we just came back from Germany.
They named it the North TVMs,
Mary.
Mary,
Or
my wife.
really?
Is it Mary Todd finally? Mary Todd Lincoln, is that right? Because that was gonna be Northeast Boundary's name. So it's Mary Todd.
Actually, it's two sisters.
It's sort of.
It's because we're gonna have two TVMs, one going north and one going south.
Did the other one get it?
Yeah.
Although, I mean, if
Yeah.
Patient?
So.
Mary was ecstatic when she saw it.
So we thought of.
Thought that was gonna be in 2017.
We're gonna have some tunnels here to tour, huh?
well, see pictures.
I'll do a slideshow next.
You can put it on the board.
Okay.
Have fun.
Yeah.
It will be good to get out of Washington.
Yeah, I am slightly nervous that they aren't gonna let me back into the country.
Just make sure you wipe your social media off your phone.
I'm going to. I'm gonna delete all my apps before I come back through customs.
Yeah.
because-
I didn't have any, I was in Mexico this weekend.
Yeah?
Apparently.
How was your immigration experience?
Like 2 seconds.
Yeah, but are you a known rabble rouser?
I-
I'm on some sort of list.
Like, you're not that interested.
I don't know, man. With the whole JD Vance house thing, I feel like I definitely got put on some sort of list with that.